Hey guys, happy Friday. Um, we're back. It's been a couple weeks now. Asher was away, and I got a little sick last week, so that's why we were recording. Um, but we're gonna be talking about a lot of Eagles. There's a lot to get into. Obviously, training camp just started on Sunday. There's some reports that are coming out of there that I'm really liking so far. Um, but otherwise, Asher, like, how you doing? How's your vacation?
Oh, this is a good time. Yeah, I feel like I got a little tanner.
Eh,
Maybe
I
not
don't know.
noticeable in the lighting,
I
but
don't know. I think you got white lighting, so I can't really
yeah,
tell.
I
Yeah,
feel
I got
good.
like a yellow lamp, so I kind of always look tan. Plus, I'm Italian, so um, but lots to get into. Like I said, number one, the big point, and we've been talking about this for weeks here on the podcast, is what is Jalen Hurts going to look like? Um, is he going to improve? Is he going to stay the same? And from what I've heard from training camp, he is looking very, very good. So the other day on training camp, I believe it was the first day, day one training camp, he threw 15. He had 15 attempts. He had 12 completions for 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. So that was that. Um, Compared to last year on the first day of training camp, he had 14 attempts, 5 completions, two of which were touchdowns, and one of which was an interception. So that alone, I mean, his his accuracy obviously is a lot better. He's finding guys in the end zone. Um, he's always been kind of responsible with the ball as far as turning it over. Um, but I'm not seeing anything declining there. But overall, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. It sounds like he is really going on the track that everybody wants to see.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you what reporter I was reading yesterday, but it was kind of like an overall view of training camp, like very in depth, which I liked. He did say that there were two plays that probably wouldn't show up on the stat sheet. There was one where Quez Watkins was going down the sideline pretty wide open, and Hurts decided to run the ball instead, so kind of missed that opportunity,
Mm.
which doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And then there was another one where he kind of threw a bad. I guess it was going to be like a check down, and Brandon Graham almost picked it off and kind of got laid out by Lane Johnson. So it would have been an interception, turned out to be a complete incompletion. But I think overall that that stuff's gonna happen. We've said time and time again. Hurts isn't just gonna turn into like Tom Brady all of a sudden. The improvement's gonna be marginal, and as long as he's moving in the right direction, that's what we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, I mean, there's only so much that stats can show. Um, but we live in a world where kind of stats run the world now. So I think looking at the stats, I don't want to get overexcited. But seeing that significance of a difference between day one last year and day one this year, uh, it's something I'm really really excited about. Now, in other news, Brandon Graham, our beloved Brandon Graham. He is full go in training camp. He's returning after a torn Achilles last year. Um, I'm not sure how good he's going to be, but we all love to see BG on the field. So Asher, what would you expect from Brandon Graham this year? I don't know if you're thinking like a little bit of a decline because of his age and the injury, or you kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only right to expect a decline.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that is part of the reason we see us go for defensive linemen in the mid rounds of every draft. Because we know that Fletcher Cox is going to be declining. We know Brendan Graham is going to be declining. Maybe it's not this year, but it's going to be some point in the near future. But I think luckily we do have the depth pieces to pick up for where that decline may happen.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think we did. I mean, I've said this time and time again. I think we did really, really good in the draft. Um, you know, brain fart moment. Um, Jordan Davis,
Mhm.
adding that to the defensive line is definitely going to help. And I've heard they're kind of running um, a mixed defensive line. They're trying to change it in rotations. I mean, we've seen this in the past with the Eagles, especially with that Super Bowl team. I mean,
Mhm.
we had a defensive line that was like 7 men deep, and we were always able to slide people in, still be a force in the trenches. So, I mean, the Eagles. have done a fantastic job on kind of maintaining that, despite the aging Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox.
Mhm.
Um, as far as other things, the safety position, something that's been in the news as far as the Eagles go recently, with the Jesse Bates sweepstakes. Jesse Bates has been, kind of demanding a big contract from Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh doesn't seem like they want to do that. So the Eagles have been a top name mentioned there. However, with training camp this week, there's been some, recent changes in that, and that comes to Marcus Epps. Coaches seem to love what they're seeing out of him. For example, Marcus Epps had a nice pick off of Jalen Hurts. It was in the end zone. He was kind of like a few feet off the receiver, and then cut right in front of the receiver real quick and picked the ball off.
Mhm.
It was a good throw by your Jalen Hurts. It's not like it was a ridiculous thing, but overall, coaches are really liking what they're seeing from Epps. Um, and honestly, I would be okay with that. I would love Jesse Bates. The only thing is I don't like the price we have to give up. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to settle with Epps. What about you, Asher?
Yeah, I mean, see, I haven't really heard much about us as far as the way of acquiring Bates goes. That's not
Mhm.
really something that I've heard. I mean, I've pretty much been sold on Epps ever since the beginning of the offseason when Howie Roseman said, I'm not going to make a big move for a safety. I know
Mhm.
more about the safety room than anyone else does, kind of
Mhm.
like outgoing and putting his faith in Epps. So, I trust Howie. I think Epps showed enough last year and is showing enough in training camp this year for us to be okay with him going forward as the starting safety.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have our safety room isn't bad, um, but I think we make up for it in other parts of the defense. Even if you were to look at it as a weakness, which I mean you could very well could see that. But looking forward to see what Abs is going to look like and see what other reports we get over the course of the next few weeks. Preseason coming up, so we're going to see a lot of these guys getting some reps on the field. One more note though, um, it's a guy that we all dread, and this guy is 10 times worse than Nelson Aguilar. Jalen Reagor is no longer taking first team reps, which I've been dying for happening.
Mhm.
I don't want him on the team at all, but I do not want to see him on the field for a snap this season unless there's some kind of injury going on. But even then, I don't want to see him touching the ball. Um, but yeah, I mean that in itself, I mean, in my opinion, is good news. What do you think about that kind of move?
I mean, it hurts just because I was such a big fan of Rager coming out of college. I mean, it's very silly to say now, but I was not angry at us passing over Jefferson for Rager in the moment. It looks very stupid now, but I mean, Rager was just such a playmaker with the ball in his hands in college. It's sad to say that it hasn't crossed over the NFL. Is it possible that he still takes that leap? Yes. I mean, it looks like he was playing well with the second team at practice yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to set the world on fire, but I would like to see him involved still in some gadget plays this year, show that he can make plays with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw what happened to Nelson Aguilar. I mean, he really, really turned it around.
Mhm.
As far as your take on liking Rager out of college, um, I found him undersized. I mean, we already had a fair amount of speed on in the receivers. I'm trying to remember what the roster was back then, but I remember thinking at the time I was like, yeah, we need a nice, lengthy guy that can really, go get a ball.
Mhm.
I really wanted CD Lamb. He's not that lengthy, but he was definitely a playmaker, definitely a wide receiver run one right off the bat. And then Justin Jefferson, I liked him. Um, but when I saw Jalen Reagor, and I was almost shocked, especially coming from a college like TCU. Um, it's not like, I mean, anybody could look good on TCU. I mean, I'm not trying to downgrade or play down like playing for that college and playing in that conference, but as opposed to a Justin Jefferson who played in the SEC and
Mhm.
played fairly well and succeeded. I I just didn't like the pick, and I didn't really have that much hope. Now, of course, I went through the 5 stages of grief. I don't know about you. I mean, you liked him right off the bat.
Yeah, I was excited for that pick.
Yeah, I just didn't. I just wasn't a fan. I think I think we just really needed a lengthy guy that can go up and you know grab balls. No.
Yeah, I remember. If I remember correctly, like during that draft, it was right when like Alshon Jeffrey was beefing with Wentz,
hmm
so it was looking like we were gonna need to get a possession guy to replace him.
hmm
So it was definitely questionable that we picked a guy that maybe didn't fit the system.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I didn't like him from the beginning. One, because I was just so shocked, and two, I mean, I watched his highlights and I watched his film afterwards, and I took a step back and I was like, all right, this guy's really quick. I have
Mhm.
some optimism, but I'm not too sure how dominating in TCU will translate to professional football. And obviously, those thoughts kind of came to fruition.
Mhm.
Um, and it's whatever. I mean, I've seen enough from him professionally. I mean, I wish him Godspeed in improving his game. He seems like he's hard at work. Um, but I mean, I hope that he can turn it around. But for me personally, I just don't really envision it.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to see at this point.
Yeah.
We've,
So
we've seen enough wide receiver busts that we don't put hope in those guys anymore.
don't get me started on the wide receiver busts. Jesus. I mean, if I talked about that, this podcast would probably be nearly an hour. I'm not even joking. Um, so anyway, that pretty much wraps up everything training camp wise. Unless Asher, you heard anything else? Have you read anything else?
No, that's all the reports that I've seen. I'm glad that we're finally in the actual training camp. I always like seeing the reports of who's doing well. Like seems like Epps is one of those guys on the rise now. It's just fun
Yeah,
to see that. Look
yeah.
forward
Well,
to the preseason.
yeah. Looking forward to hear some more news, and then even more so, I just want to see all this in play. August 12th, we start off our preseason. That's in approximately, I think it's 3 weeks from tomorrow, if I'm not
Three,
mistaken, or 2 or 3.
probably closer to two. So
Two?
so we're really coming on to it now.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I'm sorry, it is 2 weeks. So yeah, coming up quickly. Before you know it, I mean, Hall of Fame game is next week.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
NFL
this
football is right around the corner.
yeah, exciting, man. Speaking of NFL football in the 2022 season, um, we have to continue our series with predicting each team's schedule in each division. So today we are going to be focusing on the AFC North and the AFC East. Two pretty interesting divisions. Um, Lots to talk about. I'm going to start off with the AFC North, and I'm going to start with the team I have in last, and that is. Hold up, I'm looking it up real quick. I had it up on my phone. All right, in the AFC North, finishing in last as I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 5-12.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't like Kyle Pitts, and then with Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, Asher, you know the transactions better than I do. But I don't know who they replaced with Juju Smith-Schuster. He's leaving. I mean, Asher, any insight on that? I looked at their roster and I didn't really see anything that I necessarily liked. Obviously, T.J. Watt, a force off of that defensive line, but overall, I mean, sure. I mean, they seem to manage to get over 500 with really any roster, but I think
Yeah.
that streak finally comes to an end in the Mike Tomlin era. Um, but yeah, 5-12. That's where I have them. What about you, Asher? Who do you have finishing in last, the bottom of that division?
Now in last, this is put a big asterisk next to this just because the Deshaun Watson situation is so murky right
Mhm.
now. I was trying to look up sort of any speculation as far as how long he's going to be suspended. It looks like the consensus is at least 6 games, but there's just so many allegations stacked up against him. So I went with the worst case scenario route for the Cleveland Browns where he does not play all year. And so this is a tough division, but I also think the Cleveland Browns are a very talented team. So I just want to go out and say if he only misses the very beginning part of the season, this is very well a team that could sneak into the playoffs. But if they're forced to play Jacoby Brissett, I think they're probably going to be on par with the team that was playing with a hobbled Baker Mayfield. Jarvis Landry's gone. Amari Cooper comes in. Nick Chubb's an absolute beast. The defense is scary, but Jacoby Brissett's not. He's not gonna set the world on fire. I have them at 6 and where would that be? 6-11.
6-11.
Yeah, finishing last in the division. But if Deshaun Watson's there, this is maybe a 10-11 win team.
Yeah. So in third place, I have the Cleveland Browns. Sort of like an asterisk near there as well. I did my predictions based on the fact that Deshaun Watson is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. I think, again, like you said, the division's tough. I really like what they did this offseason. Adding Amari Cooper, we all know the toughness of that defense, as well as, you kind of hit all the points in the head as far as, all their strengths. But assuming that Deshaun Watson is suspended for the first 6 games, I have them going 8-9. That's my prediction. At their floor, I would go as far to say that they would go 5-12. At their ceiling, say Deshaun Watson. I mean, I don't know if there's a chance that he'll not be suspended at all.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say in a fantasy world that were the case, I think they could win this division. I think they would probably win 12, 13 games and be right up there with the Bengals or the Ravens, kind of fighting. It'd be a 3-team race to win a division. And, whoever, it's going to come down to the head-to-head. But, long story short, 6 games is probably what's going to be. 8-9 for the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. All right, so I'll jump into my third place team. Like you said, the Steelers don't seem to drop below 500 no matter who's on the roster. I mean, this team got into the playoffs. They were starting an absolute statue at quarterback. I mean, Roethlisberger, he's had a share of leg injuries. He probably couldn't throw past like 25 yards at some points last year. I really don't know how that team got into the playoffs. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. There's weapons all over the field. Najee Harris is a workhorse. We saw that last year. I think Juju was underperforming in Pittsburgh. They drafted George Pickens from Georgia. I think that dude's a beast. The quarterback position holds this team back. I think this is one of the most talented teams in the NFL on paper outside of the quarterback. But I don't love Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky might win the starting job. He's I don't think he takes the next step really. So I have them at 8-9, finishing third.
That's fair. Second place in division, I have the Baltimore Ravens at 11-6. I think they did a remarkable job this past offseason in the draft. I really liked their pick, Kyle Hamilton. I really wanted the Eagles to grab him, trade up and grab him, but ultimately we all know what happened, which I'm not unhappy about at all. Marcus Williams, they signed him to a 5-year contract this offseason. I like him. And then they also stacked up that offensive line with Tyler Linderbaum, which I really liked coming out of college. But overall, I mean, I'm assuming this team is going to stay a little bit healthier this year. Lamar Jackson, we all know who he is. He's pretty damn good. He can be a little up and down sometimes, but I don't really expect anything less than being in contention for winning that division this year.
I'm a little less confident in the Ravens this year. I think they have the opposite problem that the Steelers do, whereas the Steelers have a questionable quarterback and a lot of talent on that offense around him. I don't think the Ravens are doing enough to give Lamar his weapons. Sammy Watkins left this year, and they traded Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they drafted really well. They picked up two great safeties, Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. They both slot in and make probably one of the best safety duos in the NFL automatically. Linderbaum's a really good player. I think they really couldn't have drafted better, but they really need some guy for Lamar to throw to. They have Rashad Bateman. He's a solid player. Outside of that, not a whole lot. So I think having a good quarterback and not so great weapons around him is a better problem than having a not so great quarterback with good weapons. So I have the Ravens 1 win ahead of the Steelers at 9-8.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I get your points. I just think with Lamar Jackson, he has developed his arm over the years, but I think he has proven himself to be able to kind of carry the team a little bit with his legs. And don't forget about J.K. Dobbins, who they drafted last year, and unfortunately suffered an injury earlier. I liked him at Ohio State. That he's definitely a solid guy to have in the backfield. So I think this Ravens offense is definitely going to be run first. J.K. Dobbins, I wouldn't be surprised if they ran some screens with him. See what happens there. But overall, I'm a big fan of the Ravens this year. I think they kind of suffered a lot last year, and I think they're bound for a little bit of a bounce back. Now, as far as first in the division, let me put on my sunglasses for this. It's not the correct sunglasses, but I have Mr. Joe Burrow and the reigning AFC champion, Cincinnati Bengals, winning the AFC North. And, of course, sorry, I can't even read my notes with these on. But I think the Bengals did fantastic this offseason. I really like what they did. They kind of filled in a lot of holes, especially in that offensive line. They picked up a big guy in Lyle Collins, who came from our hated Dallas Cowboys. Big fan of the Bengals for taking him away. And yeah, I mean, I think it's all a recipe for success. They really stacked up that O-line. It was already miraculous for them to make it to the Super Bowl last year with as weak of an O-line that they had, and they just stacked that up. And it's looking pretty solid. So I'm thinking Joe Burrow is going to be in the race for MVP. That's what I mean. I don't know how hard of a take that is, but I think he's going to be in the race. He's going to be up there with Josh Allen. Tom Brady, of course, might be in the conversation as well. Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's going to be right up there. And I would say he's either going to win it or he's going to be a runner-up for the MVP this year. But overall, love the Bengals. I have them going 12-5 this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that's a hot take at all. He's going into his third year. He's still young. He's still improving. Jamar Chase was insane last year as a rookie. There's nowhere to go but up for him. I think the receiving core around him is really underrated. I like T. Higgins a lot. Tyler Boyd's a great slot receiver, really fast. Joe Mixon's a beast. And, yeah, you hit all the points. The big offensive line moves. They added 3 starters this year. And, I mean, this is a team that just made the Super Bowl. I do not see a Super Bowl hangover in store for them. I have them going 13-4 and winning the division and possibly the AFC.
Nice. Yeah, no, I definitely think they're up there. I think they'll probably finish in the 2 seed behind the Buffalo Bills, which actually we're about to get into, the AFC East.
Good segue.
Asher, who do you have kind of being at the bottom of the barrel there in the AFC East?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the most improved divisions in the NFL this year. I think there's 3 teams in this division that can compete for the playoffs. The one that I do not see competing for the playoffs is the New York Jets. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL last season. Granted, I am a big Zach Wilson truther. I think he takes the next step this year. I think he proves that he should have been that second pick that he was. They had probably the best draft of any team. Added Garrett Wilson, added Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, and Breece Hall as running back. Those are 4 impact starters right away at important positions. So, put the weapons around Zach Wilson. That defense was already solid. Offensive line's pretty good. I have them at 5-12. I think that a lot of their contributors are young guys that are gonna take some lumps this year. But this team is moving in the right direction for the first time in a while.
Yeah. I'm a little bit higher on the Jets. I have them also in last. However, I have them at 7-10. It's a bit of a high record for a last place team, but like you said, one of the most improved divisions in the league. I think last year we saw glimpses of some really great play out of Zach Wilson. I think their draft, like you said, was spectacular. I think they've really improved in a lot of ways, and I only expect them, to continue to progress this year. Of course, we all know Zach Wilson and the absolute legend that he is for what happened. But on the field, off the field, I like him. Um, um, but I'm kind of around the same track as you. I just think they're going to do a little bit better.
Yeah, I could totally see them winning seven games. I think 5 is a little. I'm just being a little cautious, but I could definitely see them winning more than 5 games. At number 3, I have the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, the big move for the Dolphins was that Tyreek Hill trade, putting a lot of faith in Tua, giving him the chance to show what he's got with one of the best receivers in the NFL. I feel a similar way about the Dolphins as I do with the Vikings. I think they have a lot of talent. I don't necessarily trust the guy quarterback in the ship. Not a big Tua guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they added 3 running backs this year. They added Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Sony Michel. I don't think that gets looked at enough.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 3 very solid running backs. They already had Jalen Waddle. I would like to see this team. I have them at 8-9, so I have them probably underperforming some people's expectations. I would love to be wrong about that. I would love to see them win 11, 12 games and make the playoffs. I don't think it happens in this division. Just not enough trust in Tua, personally.
But you also have to factor in that Brian Flores is not even there anymore. He's in Tampa Bay. Correct me on that. I believe he's in Tampa Bay.
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't remember where he landed, but I remember there was a huge debacle.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's no longer in Miami, so that's another factor into it. Asher, I agree with you 1,000%. I also have him in third at 8-9. I'm not a big Tua guy. I haven't seen enough from him. There has been enough consistency. I haven't seen enough there. And similar to a lot of teams in this league, if you have a question mark quarterback, it's going to suppress your expectations a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with our own team, the Eagles, we've had a lot of talent outside of that. Regardless, anyway, Dolphins 8-9 in third. Actually, you kind of hit everything. So yeah.
Number 2, this is probably my biggest surprise of the day. I have the New England Patriots at 12-5. This is a team last year. It's the same thing as those Mike Tomlin Steelers. You put whatever roster you want. Mm-hmm. Bill Belichick's gonna make him a 500 team at least.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mac Jones. Who knows how good he even is? I don't want to sound like a hater, but this guy might be the worst quarterback in the NFL. Bill Belichick makes offenses better. He's the quarterback whisperer.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a couple stats that I just wrote down as I was looking through the Patriots season last season. Damian Harris rushed for 15 touchdowns. Hunter Henry caught 9 touchdowns. Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers both caught for over 800 yards. Mac Jones threw for almost 4,000 yards. These are not Pro Bowl players. Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler last year, but the skill players are not Pro Bowl players, and Bill Belichick is making them look like it. And I think there's a little more talent this year. I think Mac Jones takes a step forward as a second-year guy, and this team surprises some people.
Wow. Yeah. That is surprising, but I see your logic. I do. I also have them at second. I have them at 10-7, sort of for the similar reasons, except I think your expectations are a little bit inflated. Uh, I I know for a fact not to doubt Bill Belichick. I in the past, like originally when I was thinking, I was going through this a little while ago, and I was like, are they going to go sub 500? I no. I mean, I don't. Like we said, we don't know anything about Mac Jones. We just know he kind of sits there and goes like, just throws the ball. Like he could be really good, he could be really bad, but like you said, Bill Belichick kind of makes any quarterback, doesn't matter how bad, look pretty good. But yeah, 10-7 is where I have them. I have them as a wild card team coming into the season. Probably grabbing that 7 spot. Um, you know, I Asher, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. Um, you just you just think that they're going to shock a little bit more. I think they're kind of going to go along with maybe a little bit above expectations. I don't think a lot of people are expecting a lot from the Patriots this year.
Right? And I guess we both have the same number one as
Yep.
well. Buffalo Bills. I mean, Tennessee Titans were the number one seed in the AFC last year. I think over the course of the whole season, the Chiefs started coming on strong towards the end of the year, but they had a pretty disappointing start. I think over the course of the whole year, the Buffalo Bills were the best team in the AFC from start to finish.
Mm.
They didn't finish it. They didn't finish at the top of the AFC, but I mean, they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. We all remember that crazy playoff game.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
defense was the number one defense in scoring and yards allowed. So Tre'Davious White tore his ACL at the end of last season, had to get surgery. He's out indefinitely. Who knows if he starts the season? He might come in halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. The defense is still extremely talented outside of Tre'Davious White.
Von
Uh,
Miller.
I just don't see the Bills not being a superpower in the AFC this year. I don't think outside of a Josh Allen injury, there's not much that could stop them from competing for that one seed. So I have them at 13-4.
Yeah. I also have him at 13-4. I think Josh Allen should be the favorite for MVP if he isn't already.
Hmm.
I think this team's going to take the league by storm, and I'm going to make a little bit of a predetermined prediction, but I think they're going to win the Super Bowl, their first ever Super Bowl this year. Maybe I'm overhyping it, but I think, like you said, last year they were far and away the best team in the AFC. Titans were a fraudulent one seed. They just kind of got lucky there. Um, but Bills, I think we both agree they're going to take the league by storm. I don't expect anything less really. Um, and let's just mention that they made some solid additions this year. I mean, the number one probably is Von Miller. Even though he's a little bit older, he's still a force uh, in that linebacker room. Um, but overall, I mean, really, really, really impressive. I'm actually rooting for the Bills this year. I wanted them to win that playoff game against the Chiefs. Um, Speaking of that, why not just talk about it? What was your experience like watching that game?
I mean, I feel like it was just blow after blow. I forget exactly what the stats were, but I think it was like four consecutive touchdown drives at the end
Hmm.
in like the last 3 minutes of the game. Like it was like
Hmm.
Bills score, Chiefs score, Bills score, and then Chiefs score on like they had like 12 seconds left to go like 80 yards,
Hmm.
and then that overtime, of course. And now none of us are happy when a great game like that ends because the ref flips a quarter. Like that's who decides the winner. I
Right.
think all of us wanted the overtime rules to change after that. But I mean, this is an exciting team. I think that loss really hurt, and I think they're out for blood this year.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think they're on a revenge tour. I mean, as if 2 years ago that AFC champion. I mean, we're talking about 2 straight years they've been eliminated by the Chiefs in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. In 2020 they got eliminated in the AFC Championship. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2020 they got eliminated in the AFC Championship, and then this past year, that heartbreaking game. So I think this year is kind of going to be a Bills revenge tour, and kind of prove to everybody that they're the best team in the league. But overall, I'm excited. It's gonna be really, really exciting NFL season. So more to come. Next week we will be talking Sixers. I know it's a little bit late, but probably gonna go into that arena relocation, what we think about that. Um, but yeah, looking forward to seeing you all next week.